Well, good afternoon and welcome to the final 2024 class board meeting. We have 6 participants today, and we will wrap up the year with talking a little business of what's happened this year, and we'll also go into some things planned for next year. So with that, we do not have John present today. John is unable to make it as the co-president, so I will take over for that. And let's see, do we still make that announcement about Kate? I think we do that officially. We simply state that Kate, as a member of our board who is a paid contractor, does not make any financial decisions as part of this class nonprofit. And we just say that for the record. So if anyone ever questions it, we always feel like we are covered. So that said, I've done my job with that. Other than that, we hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. We look forward to the plans that we're trying to put in place for next year. The executive team met on Friday, and we had a couple different decisions made for how we will be doing some different events, from the networking to the lunch and learn, and we will discuss some of that a little bit later. And I think with that, what I'm going to do, since we do not have a treasurer yet, we are looking for one. I don't know how hard we are looking, but we are looking. I am just going to go over a couple things that John sent out. I have not had a chance to study this. I think, did this get sent to everyone on this call?
It is in the agenda.
Okay.
If you go down to treasurer, there's a class 2024 financial overview
There we go.
link that you can just click
But
on.
is that what John sent out this morning?
That is correct.
Okay, very good. So if everyone's got that, why don't we just take a quick moment to look that over? I know that the income that we've got coming in from Vadnais Heights is in the grant form. Katie still has that check, needs to get picked up. I will swing by there sometime, Katie, and get that. Or I can ask John, since once he's back in action here, we can get that deposited. And then this Thursday, we will be awarded the $1,000 grant from the Greater White Bear Lake Community Foundation. So that is all some very good news. I think there's a few of us on here that have kind of RSVP'd to this team that they'll be able to make it. Doesn't have to be for the whole night. If people have to leave, that's good. But I think with what we've been able to do for class, to have this kind of representation, a few of us at least, for that presentation would be good, because the foundation has taken care of us every other year quite nicely, I would say.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I plan to be there. So I was wondering, did somebody submit some photos? Because I know they do a rotating photo display the whole time.
Yeah, Kelly had reached out. I'm sorry, she actually reached out to Nutrax, because Nutrax got a grant as well that our
Oh,
executive
great.
director had applied for. So we sent photos for that, but I don't think we have sent any photos for class.
Do
I
we
don't know
have
if
some,
we,
even if it's just one or two from our networking event? I know we've been taking them all year. Somehow,
yeah,
like representation in community, I think that speaks to,
let me do this. I'll make a note.
is there somewhere we have just them already like pre-prepped for website usage, Kate?
They're logged, when I receive them, they go straight into a file folder on Wix. So it's uploaded to the Wix cloud. So there's not
Hey,
like,
did I? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, there's not a specific place, and I don't think I've gotten a bunch of them this year. Like I got the one Scott took at the summer one, and that's on the home page. But
There was a couple from Lionel Lakes that I had sent at that event in May.
okay, where did
Just
you email them?
I don't know. I see them on the website already, so that I know
Oh,
they're
okay.
yeah.
Kate,
Um,
if you want to do this, if you could do me this favor, I don't know if I put them in a file once I sent them to you. if you could grab a couple that made sense and just email them to me, I would be happy to get them off to Kelly from the Greater White Bear
Okay.
Lake Foundation. We'll see if it's too late or not. I'm certain
Okay.
she could add a couple slides to their presentation.
I will-
Thank you. Something's always better than nothing because people are always
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn, for
Mhm.
mentioning that. That makes
No
sense.
problem.
Any questions on what we have here on the financial overview?
So you said this does not include the new grant.
Well, as I'm looking here, this came from Sarah. I believe that Sarah has probably just taken these numbers off of a bank statement that John got to her. So because we have not deposited the Vadnais Heights grant or even received yet the White Bear grant, foundational grant, I don't know as if this total assets is an ending statement for what we have on hand. I think we'll have to get that clarified. Taylor, do you know at all?
I just know what John sent us today. So it was
Okay.
just kind of a running amount. I know that we do have the check. It says on there inside the financials that we have the check from
Goodness.
Vadnais. Is that what it said? That's come in, and I think no, we were awarded from the Community Foundation. Yep, the grant from Vadnais. And then so that's going to be 2025 that the Greater White Bear Lake Foundation. I'm assuming that that's not yet in here.
Well, we don't even have, yeah, if John included the Vadnais Heights 750 just in this statement, we don't have it in the bank yet. But it looks the way that he wrote it, that that's inclusive of that $2,665.64.
I would, by the way that it's written, I would assume that as well,
Yeah,
that it was included in that. But it doesn't seem like it was the Vadnais Heights one because it says September statements. We only had $24. September, October, November. We only had
Right.
2482 in. So unless it got deposited, no, it would have to be like deposited yesterday because it's just December. So I'm assuming that I'm making a lot of assumptions for math.
So it sounds like we have 1,700 to be added to what we see here. Because Scott, you said you haven't even picked up the check for 7.
correct. Yeah. So I think John's overview was just simply verbal, but what he listed below for September, October, November statement, none of that shows that we have any of those grant monies in. It's just showing what came in and what went out, but it's November statement ending balance. So I'm assuming, again, let's just see if we can work this through in our head, that the ending balance for November was $1,314.84. And we have yet to add in the 750 grant and the $1,000 grant. Does that make sense on that?
That seems correct.
Okay. Very good. I've got to mute myself for a moment. I'll be right with you.
All right.
So who else is going to be there on Thursday?
I
Anyone?
cannot. It is the I'm sorry, everybody's
that.
your faces are over here, so I'm looking at you to the side, even though I'm not looking straight at you.
It's
but
the
I'll look this
Rotary
way.
event.
It is the White Bird Chamber
Chamber.
Holiday Gala.
Fun. I can't
So-
believe those are the same night.
I know.
It's
It
a lot of
just-
the same people.
Right. Yep. And so the gala is from 5 to 9. So it's just completely overlapping.
Yeah, well, we're gonna feel that, right? Because that's a lot of the same people. Okay.
Yeah. And we've got a table of or we've got 12 people from our
Nice.
staff coming. So I've got to kind of, and I'm our point person on that. So it's a bummer that they're at the same time.
For sure.
Yeah.
Totally understandable though.
Yes.
So should we kind of leave it that we've got that $1,314 balance, adding in 750 and 1,000. And just for the record of this meeting here, we will have a greater income statement and balance sheet once John returns here.
Yeah, I would say that that's kind of the exceptional thing that's happening here is that because of John's surgery, he's been unavailable, understandably. So
Yeah.
he kind of got this together with Sarah, who's doing our financials, just to give us an idea and just and to let us know that there is financial health to what we're doing, and I would love in our next couple meetings to get an appropriate budget together that really assesses like our annual expenses, and then look at that and look at it side by side with our income, so we know kind of what our financial health situation is.
Right. And I also think that this is great to have this financial overview, but I think from a nonprofit standpoint at these board meetings, it would be important for us to have a financial statement, the income statement, and also anything else that we should have showing of that. It's one thing to have bank statements, and it's another thing to kind of show more officially where we're at.
Well,
with
especially because we
income and
don't have a,
balance sheets.
in a way, because we don't have a treasurer, we are all sort of in that fiscal responsibility space right now, and so we need to, it's a shared component,
Yeah,
so
well-
yeah, any of the details could be lost in translation if we aren't seeing the full, if there's
And this is why we brought Sarah and her father aboard so that we could have those statements made for us. So
right.
once John gets back on track, I think we really need to just push that we have those in time for our board meetings, making us official. So there, I've said it. How's that?
Right.
One other thing that I keep forgetting about until we're talking about this is that the MailChimp subscription is coming from Katie Everett's personal credit card. So,
Are you submitting?
no, I haven't. I
Yeah.
see it every couple of months and I'm like, I should probably charge him back for that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I can just send you one for the year. I don't need that monthly. It's $12 or whatever, but I can submit one for the year.
And the same thing, I have talked to John about this because he would be paying me directly now once he gets back, but we've got the Zoom account that has ended up on my personal account as well. And so that has been well over a year. So
Have you,
I'm gonna,
have you
I'll
been,
hold him. Pardon me?
have you been reimbursed, Scott?
No, not at all. For the last year plus. So that's why I'm gonna ask John to, when he gets back, we're gonna get this cleaned up. Katie will get yours cleaned up. We'll have a better idea and a better look at what we have moving forward and whether we need to apply for any additional grants or needs that are out there for what we're doing.
Yeah, because we need to make sense of right? Like, what is it truly costing the organization every month if we're not
Yeah.
seeing those bills but once a year? That's going to be a trickier
Yeah.
perspective builder. Okay.
Right.
We don't want anybody paying things out of pocket. I mean, obviously in kind to some degree, but not on an annual basis. That's
Right.
well, only because like it will leave when you leave, and that doesn't set us up for. I mean, it's generous. It's the spirit is appreciated, but it also should be somewhere documented so we can function.
Well, I'm not going to be leaving the board. I'll be leaving kind of that leadership role as president, so I can still continue to keep it on my personal account. I have no problem with that.
And just submit.
Yeah.
I would
But even
think
as I
if
mentioned
we
to
have
John,
a, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I had mentioned to John that I would like to do this, every 6 months, not every month, but every 6 months to submit $17.99 a month for 6 months to have this paid twice a year would be fine with me. But John has, for different reasons and different things that have come up, we have not connected on getting this done. So I'm going to be resubmitting to John for getting this cleaned up.
I would say it's probably best if we move from having it being under your email address to being under our executive team email address. And if we have now I think we have a cash card now, something with a credit card number attached to it, we should be just opening a new account in Zoom through the executive, and then also be charging that credit card directly.
The same with MailChimp, and that's why we couldn't
Yeah.
do it because we didn't have that card before.
Right.
Yes. Okay, let's put
So
that,
we can get,
okay.
yeah, we can get that cleaned up. And
Official.
Let's have that discussion. Let's further that discussion to when we have our next executive team meeting, and then we need to make certain, Kate, are we square with you?
I have not sent out for November, but I will be. So we'll have November and December for this year. As kind of a final wrap up.
Okay.
So-
Anything else that we may be missing financially that is lagging out there?
Not lagging, but we'll want to be aware of when the Wix renewal hits because we did for I want to say a 2 or 3 year period. So that will be hitting at some point that we'll want to revisit when it gets closer. I can see if. Let me do a quick check.
As Kate is making that check there, I'm going to make a suggestion for this board that as we look to 2025 and how we want to do some of this budgeting, Katie, you're getting something that's monthly for MailChimp, so maybe we find out what's comfortable for you for getting reimbursed, whether it's quarterly, twice a year, same thing with me. Now,
Except for
again,
if we change it to the
we're gonna be
class
changing it over, so it won't be
organization.
a,
Yeah,
yeah, it won't be a big thing at that point, but we should still budget to know when those things such as Kate is looking at comes in, because we want to make certain that when we get to low points of the year, all of a sudden, we're not just automatically paying a bill that puts us in the red. And so far, we've been fortunate enough for that not to happen. Kate's done a great job of budgeting her time and being very fair to class with what she's put into play with getting reimbursed for. Great job done, and thank you for keeping us aware of when these bills are coming and how much they're going to be.
Speaking of, may I have permission to share my screen just so I can show
You
you
bet.
the side of things?
There you go.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so the way that Wix works is you have 2 payments that go through. You have the premium plan that you pay for and then the domain that you pay for. Pulling up, let's go away. So if we're looking at the premium plan, here is the bill. It is a 3-year billing period. So we will be charged next November 2025. So that is something that we should have on the books. And let me zoom in so that it's a little bit. So this is the period that will be covered through, and then we will owe for another 3 years following that with the total of $396. It was paid using a Visa. Again, because of the banking stuff, we'll probably want to log into Wix and update the information because I think otherwise it automatically charges. Scott, this might be your personal credit card. Because previously, like my husband's was on it. We've removed that, but just wanted to have the correct awareness of which card is currently set on that. So
And that is not my card.
okay. The next one, so that was for the combo plan. The next one I want to show you is for the domain. Domain is less expensive, but it just ensures that we have the Lake Area Seniors .org, and this one goes through March of 2025. And as you can see, this has a different payment method as well. This is Visa ending in 8219 for a total of $68.55. It looks like it was issued to Michelle when she was our treasurer. So we'll just want to be aware of that come March. So if you want to mark the calendar, this will be a bill owed. And
What
again,
is
if
that one compared to the first one you showed us?
first
Is
one,
it just like different modules or something?
so this is for like the website level that we have. And it's a 3-year, so that's called the premium plan combo. And then this one here, oops, sorry, not this one. This one is for the domain. Both
Oh,
are
got it.
3-year billing periods. So we're coming up on the 3rd year.
Got it.
So, I know, Kate, you just used the term, we should mark our calendars for that. If we don't know whose cards these are, Um, how
My
can
re-
we get on to Wix and even make that change?
Yeah, I would be concerned. It looks like one of them's Michelle's, that these are going to auto renew on people's cards that aren't.
Yes, so
connected.
that's why I want to make sure is over here on this side, you can see that we have payment methods and subscriptions. So I think if we could set aside a separate phone call with a particular bank card that's associated with class, so we can make sure everything is up to date prior to March. I think that way it gives us time. We don't have to do it right this second, but we do need to plan ahead. So like you said, Michelle doesn't get charged. And that we're aware that this is the payment cycle and we can put that in. Perhaps it would be beneficial to have Sarah, who's doing our finances, to be aware of that or to add that into her calculations that she's providing for us. Just because that information, I don't know that that's clearly stated in our current financials.
Taylor, would you be so kind if you could make a note so that when we talk at our next executive team meeting, if John is there, I would like to suggest we try to get this taken care of in January, so March doesn't sneak up on us.
Yep. And so for the other ones that we've got, because we could start getting everything moved over to our card. So then Katie, is the existing MailChimp, is that already going to the class executive email address?
Yes, it's under that email. It just has my payment information in there. So
Okay, so we can just update the payment information in there.
Yep.
And then Scott, for yours, we would probably just, I know that we already made all of those, I don't know, we'll look into whether or not or how to transfer the Zoom or if we just have to establish a new Zoom account under the email address.
I think we'll have to establish a new one because I'll still keep mine here for what I'm using it for new
Okay.
tracks. I don't use it as much, but we would still use it here.
I wonder if
So
you
I'll
can
keep
just
that.
assign a new host to the meetings that are scheduled though, instead of canceling all the ones you already scheduled.
Yeah.
As long as you're not closing that account, I would think it would work, but
And are you
This
getting
is-
some kind of deal, Scott, because we're just a portion of your payment? Did you say it was 17 or?
Somebody help me if you're more familiar with Zoom. The smaller Zoom account was a free account. I think we could set up a new one for class as a free account because we're not using it extensively. It only became a concern because of the possibility of having how many participants on any given call. Go ahead, Ally.
With Zoom, so I use the free Zoom, you only get 40
Wait a
minutes.
minute.
Otherwise, you have
That's
to
what
pay
it is.
for
Okay.
it.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
That's how I get my students to hop off. They've got a timer, it runs out.
That's funny.
it looks like
Um,
they have Zoom Pro is 1332, and then there's also Zoom Business that's 1832.
Okay. We'd be
And both
okay.
of those are discounted if you pay them once a year, or it's slightly more if you pay it monthly.
Oh.
That's how they get you.
And I think the lower one is what we have, and it's actually $17 and some odd cents that I get charged, but that includes a tax and whatever else. So it must be that 1351. And then we get charged more because of its monthly. I think that's what you were mentioning, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Scott,
Well,
are you using a specific account that's $17 a month that's just used for class, or are you using it for that and new tracks? Are you paying for it, or is new tracks paying for it? Where I'm going with this is this something that new tracks would want to donate to class if they're paying for it?
It's possible, but they're not donating. This is out of my personal account.
Okay, then
Yeah.
nope. Then we will do something else.
Yeah. But I could certainly, well, I could talk to Mike, executive director, just to see, but
Because you said you're also
Yeah.
using the account for some new track stuff.
yeah, but that's how it started. It started with, I had a free account because I wasn't using it, we weren't using it for class things, it was smaller meetings. And then when we went to using more and more of it for class, that's when we decided, okay, let's get to the upper level. And then I just started making the payments on that. And it had been talked about, should we just have our own class account? And that was at a time where we didn't have something to pay for it. So kept it in my name, and it was suggested, Scott, just go ahead and use it, but it's, class is paying for it, but use it for the other things that you were using it for. So we have no problem separating it. We'd be okay with it here.
Yeah, I'm just thinking
Okay.
we've got a paid account, like Mueller Memorial has a paid account. Which I mean, we could, if it's just a matter of doing our board meetings and things like that, we could do that. The only conflict that might arise is if we were actually trying to do arrangements at the same time, but I don't know if we're
Right.
even able to have more than one meeting at the same time. I don't think we are.
Right, no,
There.
and that's why we tried to keep it, so we had that separation on this end too.
Quick side note, guys, Sarah hadn't been included on the email that went out today. I saw that she sent something just now, so she's popping in.
Oh.
Sarah, sorry about that.
No worries, it happens.
I think we still had Diane on the email list, so that's probably what happened, and apologies. We'll get that updated. And the one on the class website, the December 2nd one, it wasn't letting you in, is that correct?
No, I couldn't get in on the link that I had in my calendar or the one on the website.
You did it. Welcome.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
You did. You
here.
climbed a mountain
Wow.
here. So I clicked like several different ones, and the only one that I got to actually work was the one at the very top of the calendar invitation. So maybe if we go to a new Zoom, we were just talking about getting a new Zoom account just now. So maybe if we did that, we could create a little bit more clarity in our invitation. Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, because we've had problems in the past all year trying to use the ones off the email versus the site, and that's,
And Katie, I think we're never gonna meet to go over that for next year, so.
awesome.
And I
um,
think to Scott's point with like shared accounts and stuff, I think just so that for longevity's sake, we know what it costs for class to be operating, just like class paying for its own things kind of makes sense.
I agree.
It's $150 a year, and if we can't afford that, then we need to be able to afford it if we want to use it, kind of thing. So
Right.
We're moving out of official COVID time where we were all hands on deck and crisis management. This feels like this is the right? We were just like, keep the lights on.
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
Yeah.
But I think these kind of financial statements that come into play, I'd love to see monthly expenses listed on there, not just something that gets paid every 6 months. I think it should be from a banking end of it, if it's only paid out of the banking account, I get that, if it's only every 3 years or 6 months. But for Zoom and for what Katie is paying for, that's a monthly showing, so that should be every month on a statement for class. Not just whenever I can get,
Right.
a reimbursement request. or
Yeah,
when
those are
Katie can.
operationals, right? Like just
Yeah.
operational expenses.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, we've spent a lot of time on financials here, which is important. We need to do it, and I think the more ears that hear it, the better we are as a team to kind of come up with some solutions as to how it can look better into next year. So let's just leave the financial part where we will work with Sarah to get financial statements every board meeting that we have that are not just an overview and are not just a bank statement, they're actual financial statements. And then we will work to get Katie's Wix account switched over to a class and Scott's Zoom account switched over to class. So we are freestanding with that. Is that an accurate conclusion to this discussion? Okay. All right. Well, next I'm going to hand it over to Taylor and for our secretary report.
Hello. All right. So for secretary report, always, you can, I send you all the agenda and the running agendas, but in here in your agenda is a link to the typed notes. So if ever you want to look back on things that I'm looking to the side or doing something while we're talking, it's all right there if you kind of want a refresher on all that. We have, the bylaws available in here that we haven't addressed since 2021. And I know that we kind of keep kicking this down the road, but I remembered why we were trying to remember why we were going to talk about reviewing the bylaws. And a big reason was, in looking back at the notes, was because of succession and succession planning, so that we've got a little bit more stability there. Because I mean, with you stepping down from the presidency, Scott, and not really having a clear line of succession, a past president, new presidents, or incoming presidents, we don't really have a system for that. And we're talking about consulting the bylaws to see what our rules are for that and what our expectations are in the bylaws for that. I would love to have more discussions about that, and get some clarity from people who might be interested in getting into a leadership position in this. I know that we kind of came out of COVID in little wishy-washy times, and it sounds like we're getting some really good footing underneath ourselves. And it's easier to lead when you're not on an unstable ship. So I think that's a really good thing to be able to offer someone who might be interested in leadership. So besides that, you can always follow the notes and then look at the past recordings and upcoming events on our website. That is all.
And Taylor, I would mention that thank you for stating that, because that kind of rings a bell for what we had talked about in the past. This is not a bad time and probably the appropriate time to have a quick discussion on what people feel about that. I think from an annual basis, with all positions except for a president's position, they're annual in nature. They're a one-year term. Is there any feelings as we look back at, I think in 2019 is when we started, Lynn, we had an outgoing president who stayed around for a year. We had an existing president. We had an incoming president. So that incoming president was really viewed as, you have this year, the next year, and the following year for a term. What we've done since COVID hit, and as we were trying to transition to me getting out of a president role, we went to a co-president role. So I think it's difficult, just my own personal opinion, and I'm just going to weigh in on this, to find 3 people at any given time who wish to have somewhat of a presidential position, and knowing that your term is going to be 3 years. I think that's hard for people to commit to. It's very difficult when we have kind of a small nonprofit going on. So it is my finding, as John and I have talked and kind of been able to bounce off each other a little bit with this position, is that if we had an alternating incoming with 2 co-presidents to look at a 2-year term, but the incoming one would offset the outgoing one. They could not begin or end at the same time. And so we always have that overlap for a secondary co-president coming aboard. That would be one option. The other one would be simply new president every year. So I'd love to hear any input or feedback on that.
I think if we're gonna have if we do co-president, I think people are less afraid if there's a co-president, so there's 2 of them, but they would have to do that every other year kind of a thing, so that we always have someone who's current and then incoming.
So that's why that 3-year design was what it was. I know
Right.
it felt like somebody was committing to 3 years, but really you're only the president for 1 year. 1 year you were getting your bearings, and then the other year was your transition year out.
I would suspect if we didn't have that like outgoing year, that person would be tapped in a lot anyway. So it
Yeah.
feels like a little bit of a bait and switch to get rid of it. And then
Right.
not that like people who are involved with this organization are ever going to be swatting people away.
No, but it is what you said though. It was designed, just based on what was happening with the nature of the organization, that it is so volunteer based, like there's no core. So you need that interdependency of sort. It needs to, obviously, if somebody just drops off, there would still be, like you said, that tapping in going on. So it was formalizing that sense of it, but maybe that was too formal. I mean, that's what I hear. Too much of a, how do we get people to even go into, but I think what I would counter that with, or sort of expand on, we don't want someone to be the president who isn't already invested in the organization. I mean, that wouldn't really be the best fit anyways. So I guess there's that happening in tandem, that you'd want somebody moving into it who already saw themselves connected and would be an ongoing connection at that level, at the president level, right? I mean,
And if I could mention also, when we decided on the incoming, the existing and the outgoing position with 3, that was during a time where we were planning projects. We were
Yes.
planning
yeah,
big events, and each of the 3 president roles had different responsibilities.
Yes.
We're no longer doing that, which does make a difference.
to some degree it's building though. The education component is coming back. Membership is coming back. I mean, so I would say there's still a level of that. I mean, I see we're in that in between stage where it's not totally back, but it is, there's capacity that could be, yeah, it's just a dialogue that I'm glad we're having, because, you know, it wasn't a model that fully got implemented. I mean, COVID hit and it was designed and it was launched and then it never went into that full rotate. I think we made one rotation. I think it was Tara, Cindy, me, and then we didn't do it again. It didn't follow another 3-year cycle.
After 2020, there was
what
no
are we-
rotation.
Right.
I do kind of like the idea. I mean, ideally, the 3 people, the outgoing, sitting, and incoming is a great model. I think that the 3-year commitment is intimidating to anybody.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea that John and Scott if have kind of proposed here, which is you have 2 co-presidents and there's a new person every year, so that so imagine we're starting from scratch. You have President 1 come in and they are incoming for that year, and then the second year they're outgoing and you have a new incoming and they're co-presidents. And then so outgoing first one goes out and then incoming comes in and these are co-presidents. So really it's like you're committing to being a co-president for
Yeah.
2 years. The first year you're the incoming, second year you're the outgoing. So it kind of distributes a little bit of the responsibility between the 2. Does that
How did
seem
that work,
functional?
Scott? I mean, did that feel good? I mean, I know that was something that John proposed for his own reasons, but would you say that would be a model we'd want to potentially duplicate?
I would say it would work. John has had his challenges this year.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of several board meetings that have been missed and other things that have been missed. But that's why having a secondary president and a board to be able to handle that is good.
Yeah.
The difficulty is, so if I'm not the one that's part of that, that
Yeah.
means that if we had an existing co-president who had been here a year and there was somebody new coming in, that existing president really has a responsibility to help lead and nurture that incoming president and should work very hard. And that, no disrespect to John or anything. We
No,
understand
no.
life,
It's
No,
situational.
life happens. I'm just
Yeah.
talking about a position now, not a person.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I
right.
think that in an ideal world, we would wish to have that second term president really be that lead and nurture that incoming president. So there's a comfort level. It's all about that coaching aspect, because what I would suggest here is let's look, we have 7 people on this call today. We have a board of 9, and out of that board of 9, if we went with that 3 president type of thing, 3 of us on this call would have a presidential role today. You would be either first year, second year, or third year. Now think about that. Now you've got that commitment, and in this day and age of busyness, would any of this, give me a show of hands, who would be willing to come in and step in as a president role on this team? Knowing that we don't want a new person who hasn't experienced class before. We want existing people who can carry the torch. How many would wish to step into that position? And that's my point.
Well, right. I mean,
think that
this
that's
is exactly,
difficult.
yeah, it's difficult. And we have people who have been part of class that have not been in. I like when I look at the upcoming year, we're diversifying the way that, I mean, people are hosting, I mean, people are stepping up. That wasn't there before. It was literally just, here's a Zoom meeting and, everyone attends. So that is part of that coming out, right? Like there will be more people in the mix at a different level than just showing up to network.
So I think one thing that would be an opportunity to transition, let me know if this makes sense or if we need to stay on this, that when I was starting to put together and reach out to everybody about events for 2025, that we could have specific board members who are representative at particular meetings. So the responsibility doesn't fall solely on one or two individuals to be at every single meeting. And I think by having a host and co-host, like an Aaron Aspare, for one of them, Katie has offered Vadnais Heights as a location, and being able to say myself, the two of us working together, like, okay, we're going to make sure the invites go out. We're going to make sure that we're connecting with people. If we need a speaker, blah, blah, blah. And then that's our responsibility for the year. It's a lot easier to know that you are in charge of one, maybe two things than all the events throughout the year. That way, when you have other commitments, you're not feeling torn like, oh, I'm not showing up for class. And is this worth my time? Because I think that's the other hard part, is that now that we're meeting in person, that's time on the road, time away from your desk, time away from the responsibilities you have to take on anyway. So if you can justify it by minimizing the extended effort over the year and you can centralize on a specific event, it'll make it a lot easier to justify your time outside of working days in the office. So I had sent out a bunch of emails on behalf of the class board asking people, and they are interested. I even got a phone call. Katie, Terry Furlong actually called me and said that they wanted to host something. So he's down for January. We actually have a conflict. Two different people want to host in January. So like, that's a good problem to have, right, guys?
Let's let the bidding begin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Taylor, I think you had included the event attachment on the meeting. Where is that exactly?
Okay, it is. Where did I put it? Okay, upcoming events. It says 2025 class event planning outline
Under announcements.
under announcements, upcoming events. Yep, announcements and upcoming events.
And Katie, you had set up the Google Forms for people to submit their requests. I'm getting yelled up on my computer that I have too much open. So
I can open that.
Okay, so before we go all the way down that path, let's go back to the succession and presidency thing, so that we
Yes.
can kind of put a coda on that. What do we think we're doing there? Do we kind of want to make this the idea that we have an incoming and an outgoing kind of co-president situation? Or do we want to try to go back to the three formation? What, from people especially who are working in nonprofits, what does that look like?
Has everyone weighed in with an opinion that they'd like to have heard? I don't want you to feel like, uh-oh, if I speak, that means I'm stepping up.
I think
We'd love that, but
I think that's kind of why I was bringing up the event thing, is I like the idea of two people being able to support each other, that there's always that continuation cycle of someone who can be there because life does happen, that we have kind of an incoming, outgoing as that continuous rotation. I think it's a lot easier to manage that knowing that you're never really alone.
So Kate, could I ask for clarification on that? Are you suggesting that, let's say we went with a co-president type setup, that cooperative between those two individuals would be doing what you're suggesting? Or are you suggesting that everyone on this board, community ambassadors, or I'm sorry, the title, it wouldn't include you, Sarah, for having to have that. I mean, it could if you wanted to, but are you suggesting that it would be different people, two different ones that would handle the next networking event, two different people that would handle the next lunch and learn, and so on?
Yes, that is what I'm suggesting, that for
Yes to
event-
the second or yes to the first?
So what I'm suggesting is having an ingoing and outgoing president serving, so you're technically getting a 2 terms. You have your year in and then your year out. And those co-presidents are overseeing the people who are in charge of managing at least 1, maybe 2 events throughout the year. So that way it's not putting all the responsibility on the president or outgoing presidents to plan and be at every event. It has the board kind of taking ownership and invites people in to participate. So if they want to help host an event, it introduces them to the board, and it kind of leads to a succession where we can have more people who are interested and don't feel like they're being thrown in the deep end right away. So I see it as kind of a twofold, where we'll have the 2-year term for president, co-president, but then the board will have the responsibility of picking 1 or 2 events that they can help host or plan together. So they're not the only one doing it, but it's a 2-person option. And then the president, co-president oversee that and communicate things and are handling the finances and the big picture stuff. So that way we're getting the bylaws up to date. We're getting all the financial stuff.
So what do we have for next year? We have John. And are we looking then for another co-president? I mean, I guess I'm not sure where we're starting from.
Yes, we have John, and we are looking for a second.
So
incoming.
okay, so he's willing to stay on, but as a co-president.
Yes.
Okay, so we need to move to a co-president model then, if that's what he, you know what I mean? Like if that's the expectation.
Well, not necessarily, because if we stayed with the existing, if we wanted to truly go away from a co-president, 2 people, and go back to what we had, the 3, I would be the outgoing, John would be the existing.
Okay.
We'd still need an incoming. I would rather not be the outgoing because I've kind of been outgoing for the last 3 years.
Exactly.
I still want to be involved, but not as
So
a
then
president.
so if we go the other way, then we need to look for a co-president, either way. I mean,
Either way.
yeah, either way. I vote for the co-president model. I think it never, as much as it was ideal, I think it was really top heavy for an organization that is designed as it is. I think the way that you all have organized, the way Kate just explained, you know, board involvement, I love that. It needs to happen all year long, not just at the meetings and, you know, I mean, not just, but just we need FaceTime with people and we have opportunities for that. I think it's going to hopefully naturally then feed that process of that expanded involvement. So it's not just let's plug a hole. It's, oh, hey, I feel like called into the space and I've already been a part of and formed relationships with people throughout the year. So if I don't know, we're not really taking a vote, but we're going around the room here. And I think as a person who has history with the 3-year model, it was in its peak, and I don't know that we're going to return to that. I mean, I just don't see that. I think we're going to be much more likely to bring in individuals in a co-model. Those are my current thoughts.
I agree. I think that getting the incoming outgoing co-president model going is a good idea. We have to again look at the bylaws and see what kind of change that is from our existing bylaws. So let's work on putting together something we can make a motion on next time, and kind of get going towards that model. Is that cool for everybody?
Do we need to, though, at this meeting I mean, I guess I didn't even know we were looking, I mean, a co-president needs to be added to along with our not accountant, but
Treasurer.
A treasurer, thank you. Right? Is that what we're looking at for 2025?
Yeah.
It is, yeah. What I think from a standpoint of this board meeting, we don't have to make a decision today, but I think we should at least make a motion
Yeah.
for a final decision to be made at a later date, but a motion would simply be, we are proposing to be moving from the existing bylaws to a co-presidency, however that wording is, we can just have it a
Mhm.
little more formalized for our end of year. We can also state that a vote on this can be at our next board meeting, or it could be by the board members through proxy at any time. We could
Feels like
send out
this-
an
Yeah, it
email.
feels like the sooner we can do it, my opinion is we're going into the new year. I don't think we want to wait till our next board meeting to even, because then we're gonna get, there's a lot of momentum around annual renewals right now. If we can message that we're looking for, or we have 2 open positions on the board, and as you're discerning involvement in the organization, those kind of things. Otherwise, it gets lost. All of a sudden it'll
Yeah.
be middle of the year again, and we're looking for somebody. This seems like a peak time to be thinking about messaging out to members, messaging and supporting John. I mean, I'm not sure. Has anybody been in contact with him? Is his health
Yeah.
okay? Good. Is he's okay? I mean, just going into the new
Yes.
year, I wouldn't want him to feel that burden either of any.
We've been in touch with him.
Great, super.
Yes.
So he's feeling like he can continue what he had previously committed to, and
Yes.
Cool.
He had an
And-
emergency appointment for a family member that he
okay.
just had to be
Sure,
at today.
sure,
Everything's
sure.
fine, but it was something he had to be at and unfortunately could not make the meeting. So
Good. I
let's
just
do
haven't
this
talked to him.
in, just for the respective time here. Can a president make a suggestion or at least a motion here?
Yes.
Anyone can make a motion.
I will make a motion that as a board, we wish to move forward with a 2 president role position pending any old bylaws that may have to be reviewed. But if we find that we can make that change, I propose that as soon as possible, regardless of it being a board meeting or not, we would go to a 2 president role. I'm suggesting we call those roles an incoming president and an existing president. And each of those roles would be a 2-year term.
Second.
No, that would be sorry to amend that, but it would be an aggregate 2-year commitment
Aggregate,
as
yes.
incoming president. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Katie, for sending out the bylaws.
They do currently state president, president-elect, and past president. So
So the
There's a link in
changes
the
will
agenda for
not
the
be
bylaws.
made. The changes will not be made or voted on today. It's a proposal that we will look to move forward to get this buttoned up as quickly as possible. Voting can happen via email. It will be sent out to the board once the executive team determines the wording that we wish to have in our new bylaws.
So
Ally?
motion, and then I heard a second from Kate, right?
Yes.
Ally, did you have something to add before we?
No, we can go ahead. I just was gonna say something that we do in MRPA is that we actually, when we send out our emails looking for our board members, we actually say, if you would like to, Katie, how do they phrase it? If you would like to, recommend. what's the word? Nominate, thank you, nominate someone, which that may put on to someone else like, ooh, I don't want to do this, but so-and-so would be really good at, I'm going to nominate them. But we also stay in there like, that person has to, like, that they personally call that person and say, hey, you are nominated. Do you want to do this? Kind of a thing. Because that may be, someone may be like, I don't think I can do. For example, Katie Everett, thank you very much for putting me on this board, because she was like, you can do it. Come on, come join us. And I was like, no. She's like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Like, I needed that peer pressure to be pushed on here, which I'm very grateful I'm on here now. So don't get me wrong, but having that as an option when we send it out to people, I think might be more enticing as a thought, or we may get a few more extra people who would want to be part of this who just don't believe they can.
Schoolyard peer pressure tactics. I like it.
Well,
Which
or
would-
even just please join us at the next board meeting and see how fun we are. I mean, there's that. This was the board meeting, actually, historically, we always did that at the December board meeting. Like, bring your friends. Bring your friends.
This also, thank you for mentioning that, Ally. I think we are now remiss in actually getting, I believe it's Tess as a board member, because as the last meeting of the
Jess.
year, this is elections. Jess, I said Tess, Jess wishes to be a board member. But in our meetings, because we haven't invited non-members to these board meetings, how do we wish to go about that? We have always had elections through the years, now except through COVID. We've had elections that have taken place in this last board meeting of the year.
So that is down under 2025 board succession planning, was plan for onboarding Jess Crandall from Amada. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't really, I don't know what that looks like historically.
I will reach out to her. I will get a definitive that she wants to be involved. I think that she will be excited to be involved. At what capacity, don't know just yet, but just having a new face on the board, I think is good.
Okay,
I
to
do
go back,
believe, pardon me?
I was gonna say to go back, we have a motion and a second on the floor, by the way, just
Yeah.
for reference.
Kind of part of the discussion here, but so Ally, to your point, I think if we just all in favor of the motion that has been put forward, say
Motion to
aye.
move from the existing bylaws to a two-president model, incoming president and existing president with a 2-year aggregate commitment. All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Any opposed? All right,
Motion
motion
moved.
carries.
We will move forward here. Just to the point of this next month in January, we need to have a board put in place, new board members voted in. We may have to do this remotely via email, which is okay. I think that has been stated in our bylaws for other things that could happen as well.
I remember, this may have been a lot of work, but when I first joined the board, there was like a board packet that went out too, that had
Yeah.
all of the like, here's how to get into our Google accounts and this is what we do here stuff. That probably hasn't been updated in a while. So if we are gonna make a push to get more people involved, it might be worth at least like updating the year on the front of that or something. Just to kind of orient people that do commit to joining.
Kate had done a really nice job of that in the past. So we, like you said, Katie, we've had that out there. Probably just need to get a few things updated.
Do you need me to make that part of my list, and which hat do I wear to do that? Just so I have that.
I'm gonna ask you to consider what that might look like, what hat you want to wear, and then if you want to, this Friday, are you available? Kate?
let's see. I could make this Friday work. What time? 1:30 or 2?
I think we're on at 1:30 this Friday. Let me just quick look here. John, I don't think has requested, because it's a first Friday of the month. So yeah, I think we're on, it's showing 1:30 on my schedule. So at that time, we can talk about what you think would be best, and then what it's going to take to put that packet together. As long as the board is here, what we've done is sometimes Kate will get on a call on Friday and we determine whether it's the Kate contractor hat, or we will pay her for time for a project that we discuss, or it's Kate, the board member hat, who's willing to put a little bit of time in to do things class related. And I do ask her to be careful with that and not expect too much of her.
And she's very, very good about respecting our budget and our time and all of that. I would be strongly in favor of establishing a budget for the year before we get someone that we're paying to spend time building out a board packet, because I know that packets and handbooks, things like that can be very time consuming. And I want to make sure that we've got the money to support that after we get all the other expenses that people have been paying out of pocket and get a like real budget for 2025 down before we engage with her about that. So maybe that's not a conversation for Friday. Maybe we keep Friday a budget conversation and then move forward when we figure out what kind of money we've got to spend on something like this.
I don't
I just-
disagree with that, Taylor. The only thing I would interject is that Kate's already done a lot of that board packet work. We've got board packet from years past, right, Kate?
Take a
That
look at
this would,
that right now. If you open that up, it's a PDF of the packet that I put together last time. And it was last updated in 2022.
so this is more of kind of rounding the edges this is not a start from new type of project.
Oh, nice.
And that's why I thought by asking Kate to be on Friday, because she had already done this, she may have a better idea of what hours and if there's changes that we know that we're wanting to make, what that may look like. And then we can kind of determine moving forward what we should do with that. So I don't disagree with the budget, Taylor. A budget for the year on these kind of things is great. I think for right now, it can just be a discussion coming Friday. Kate can bill for a little bit of time for this for part of the meeting. And I think as a board, it's going to help us get better looking.
Oh my God, yeah, for sure. I'm looking at this right now. I'm like, this is super useful. This would have let me know who to invite via email today.
Sure. So
And
Kate's
basic
done a
stuff.
lot of, I'm gonna go back to 2020 when it was kind of the Kate and Scott for a little bit. We were lonely people on these calls on Friday. We got a lot accomplished and Kate did an enormous amount of work. And then slowly but surely, we had more people that were coming aboard for some of these Friday meetings, so.
And I
Did
think
you? Oh, go
the-
ahead. Tiff.
I think this information, like a lot of it does exist on the back end, and that's what's nice to give out as a beginning of the year thing. If I could suggest for the remainder of December, if we can finish filling out the events for the year, it will be a lot easier to start the new year with these dates, these people assigned to events. And I think as a result, the budget will kind of start to make sense. The plan, hey, if you want to come on as a board member, Taylor is going to be hosting the Mueller Memorial event, but we would love to have you and you can see what it's like as a board member, what I do. Like that might be another recruiting aspect. And hey, here's a copy of our board packet so you can see what things look like. And kind of start the year off in this organized manner that takes very little lift from the board, is my hope. Because I think that we've just been carrying a lot for a long time. And if we have it pre-planned, it takes a lot of that anxiety away.
For
gee,
sure.
Oh, no,
I just saw a message from Lynn that her son was in
yes.
a car accident.
Oh. Well, hopefully because she's taking a call from her son that he's okay, so. All right, very good. Well, let's, Taylor, first of all, I don't want to diminish what you thought or what you said about, just making certain we budget this. I just wanted to let you know there's been a lot of stuff that's been put in motion already and
bet.
formatted, so.
I did
Yeah.
not know that existed, so that's fantastic. That's perfect. I think that would be
But why
a
don't we
great
just
way
make it-
to have it in January, to give that to Jess and be like, here you go, Jess. I would find it valuable. That's pretty cool. So okay, so just something of seed to plant, because we are the people and we are the board, and I don't know that we're gonna be looking to our membership to fill the incoming president spot. This might be something for all of us to consider. So for everybody who's here and on the board already, and the incoming president person would probably be somebody traditionally who was serving on the board previously, who isn't just a member. So that's us guys. So if there's any room in your heart and soul to consider doing this, we're going to be looking from this pool to fill that spot. And just keep that in mind. I'm just leaving room. I'm just holding space for that,
Yes, there we go.
as they say.
Thank you.
Holding space. So
Taylor, if you wouldn't mind, if you could make a note for this, what Kate just sent out, that link for our our packets. That'll be part of Friday discussion, along with what Kate had mentioned is to finish out the dates that we want for 2025. That can be part of what we accomplished this Friday. Okay, so we're about 15 minutes away. We got a little bit to do here, so let's continue on. I got to get my
And
agenda back up and
while you're
Brainstorming
doing that,
here.
Scott, what I do want to put out for everybody, because of the unique position that I hold with class, I don't feel comfortable going beyond as a board member, but I am available throughout the year for the executive team to connect with. So anyone who's like, ugh, this feels like too much, annoying, like, I am willing to, like, hat on, hat off, walk through stuff as it's been done in the past when I was supporting Scott as president, and will continue to support the class team overall. So you always have a resource in me in that I will show you back end stuff and kind of give you perspective, but then allow you guys to make the decisions so that I'm not influencing, costs and so forth of class. So I just want that also to maybe be a safety net if if you're concerned about what it's going to take for you to be in a major position like Scott's been holding. So Scott, back to the agenda.
Sounds good. One, just clarifying what you said. So do you plan to continue as a board member or not as a board member, just as a contractor?
I will continue as a board member, but I won't move into the role of president or anything else that has a potential
it.
conflict of
Got it.
interest.
Yeah.
But because of that, I will be able to support anyone who does take on that role with the experience that I've had helping both as contractor and board member.
And I will just say for the record, I I said this last year too. I'm not going to leave this organization hanging, but I would really love to step down a little bit from what I'm doing and leading meetings and leading networking. I would love to see that fall on other shoulders. And that's where, incoming Jess and I'm going to suggest even Ray, our new member, Ray, very powerful voice. Not in the president role to begin with, but I think he could be a good board member that we could really sway into this. So anyways, okay, so we've kind of handled old business here. We didn't do any check-ins. I think we're going to need to pass on that for now. How about everyone go thumbs up or thumbs down if you've made a connection or created engagement this year? All right, good. Next topic. Sorry about that. We've talked about the bylaws, the event leadership, that was also discussed a little bit. We're going to continue on with our networking and lunch and learn. And I would like to say officially a very big thank you to Kate for just taking the bull by the horns, sending out an email to our members in our list about what's going on, and got some really good things in motion prior to this meeting. So much appreciated. You've got some gaps that are now filled for venues and timing for some of these upcoming meetings. So thank you. We've talked about roles in the succession, grants and other income. That was talked about earlier. We received the 750 and the 1,000. Do we feel that we need to be looking for more grants? Do we have a quick discussion on that?
I think I bring this up every time we talk about grants, but until we have something other than operations to be asking for grant money for, no.
But there are some grants out there that are willing to have part of what you're doing for your operations when they know you don't have other projects. And even when I was talking with, I'm forgetting her name now, but with Vadnais Heights, she
Muriel.
understood. Yes, thank you. Muriel understood as we had a personal conversation that this is not project-based. It does have to do with operations, but here's the operations piece of it. So once she understood what class was doing, she said, there's really no reason that we wouldn't be willing to support this. So even though we're looking for operational, we're not talking about 5,000, 10,000. These smaller little grants could be available, and another 500 to 1,000 would really put us in a good place, in my opinion. So if we hear about that, I think we should have those discussions.
Hey, Sarah, is Trellis putting out any grants that we should know about for 2025 that would help with operational costs?
We do not
Oh.
have any grants of that nature, unfortunately. But I was just thinking that the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits does an annual sort of grant review of everything that's happening in Minnesota, and then they do a nationwide day, and then you get this booklet that has basically a list of all potential grantors, except for like maybe like the small rotaries and things of that nature. Um, Anyway, I'm planning on attending that. That's coming up in January. And so if I hear of anything, I will certainly keep you all in the loop. And let you know if there's some just smaller ones available there that could keep those general operating expenses going.
That would be great. Is there a link? I know I've looked in the past specifically for a class. Isn't there a link too that becomes public? Is it in January? You said you get a booklet, but is that
It's in January. You have to be a Minnesota
member?
Council of Nonprofits member, I think, to
We,
access
yeah,
the
we
booklet
were
and
a
everything.
member. That's right. We were a member for that one small year before this is what that's right. That's right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And the
I'll
other
look up the event though too and
Thank
pop it in the chat.
And I would remind this team that when we had the Greater White Bear Lake Community Foundation grants that come in, we have not received those every year. They've basically been on an every other year basis. So I think we need to keep that in mind, that it's not always something that's going to be there from year after year.
Which also brings up the question of, or the conversation of our forthcoming membership drive, which will be traditionally in January. We kind of batted around like how we get people to sign up again with our existing payment system, which is a little bit of a challenge because it's not really a membership management system so much as it is a donation collection system. And it's the best we got for the money, which is great. And so there might be a little bit of point of frustration for people if they have to refill out their information and their business information if they're re-signing up. But it's kind of is what it is. And unless we want to start paying a lot more money for a more sophisticated system, it seems like kind of the best way to go. And Kate did a good job of sourcing that back when it got established. And it seems like a good enough program because we're just pretty much paying credit card fees.
And I think, Kate, you have modified it somewhat so that an existing member has a little bit of an easier time navigating just a renewal.
Yes. We were able to make little back-end modifications to
So
hopefully.
yeah, so all those will go out again the first of the year. Yeah.
And just a second, go ahead, Kate, finish what you were saying there.
Yes, I did add a modification in the login on the back end, so that should help. That if someone.
Good. Okay. Lynn, what were you saying?
Oh, sorry, I just thought you were done talking, Kate. I apologize. I
Sorry.
interrupted. Did that with that modification, then is it an automatic renewal that it goes out to everyone or is that still a manual? Okay.
They will still have to make that conscientious effort to go and renew, but they do not have to go through with listing their company and their desires and everything that they do. It
Right.
is more of a renewal, but it is a manual.
I think that we built some email campaigns in MailChimp already for membership stuff. So it's easier when that comes around to just hit send to everyone. So
Perfect.
Good, excellent. Okay, as we're winding up here, and I really have a hard stop at maybe 3:01, but we have listed at the end of the agenda. Well, first of all, before we do that, Sarah, any updates as a community liaison that you would like to share with us?
Just to mention that the draft multi-sector blueprint on aging is in development and there were some action teams and just wanting to make sure folks are aware of that. And that the Age Friendly Minnesota Council is doing a presentation on December 17th to share some of their learning so far and what that's going to look like. So since that has sort of that macro perspective, just wanted to make sure folks were aware of that. And then secondly, just make sure that you all are aware that we are moving. And so I will happily host an event at Trellis at some point in the future, but I have no capacity to know what kind of space I have available or anything in 2025 yet. So just wanted to put that verbally out there that happy to host you all. And when I have more information, I'll share it.
You guys are
Well, we have
moving
later
again?
in the year spots to fill, so we'll let you know.
Yes.
That'll be great.
Yes,
Sarah, you're moving again? You guys just moved.
we are. Yep.
Oh, do you know where you're going?
Yes, we'll be sort of in the like 280-35 area of Minneapolis.
Closer to downtown. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the update.
Yeah.
The December 17th, how do we get information about that? Is that like a virtual meeting or what is that?
It is virtual. I'll pop the link in the chat.
For the blueprint? Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. We have the event planning outline here. So we have the networking meeting list. That will just continue to be an ongoing fill as we go type of thing. We also have the lunch and learn dates, and we have the board meeting dates, all three of those of which are for 2025. Our next board meeting is February 3rd, possibly face-to-face. I think we just put that in there because we just always love the thought of maybe we can be face-to-face all of next year. And then we will make certain we will get the Zoom links figured out so we don't have this some are working, some aren't type of thing.
I'm gonna put out a nomination that I can already see some eyes are gonna be like sending bullets my way, but I'm gonna nominate Taylor for incoming president and Katie Everett for secretary for 2025. I love you guys so much. You're amazing and I want to work with you. But
Gotta go now. Love y'all.
Oh, that was awesome.
yeah, I just felt the firing squad looking my way, but
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I feel that energy, Kate.
Lynn, are you up for any kind of role other than board? Not just,
Oh,
but
I'm
board
glad you're
member?
asking, but I just learned last week I'm having another surgery, so I'll be heading to Mayo in a week.
Hmm,
And then, so I'm not sure what the first quarter of next year looks like. I'm
Sure.
still in that space.
So
I need to stay just bored right now.
Yeah.
That
Well,
will
thank
be,
you for
that'll
letting us
change
know.
hopefully soon.
Well wishes for everything you have ahead of you.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. And with that, is there anything that I have missed that we wanted to talk about? I think we had a very vibrant conversation today. I appreciate everyone's input. I think we're moving in a good direction. Every board meeting, we keep saying that, and I think we say it because we mean it. As we close this out, I'm wishing everybody here, and for anyone who is going to be online watching this recording, wishing everyone a very happy holiday season, safe, prosperous, blessings with you and your family, and we will see everybody again in 2025.
All right,
Thank you,
sounds good.
So we
Scott.
have a
I would like-
motion.
Motion.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we
Go
can
ahead.
adjourn, but I do want to say we all need to lift you up, Scott, in what you have offered this organization. And I just want to put voice to that. In the last
you.
4 years, you have burnt both ends of the candle. And I'm glad that we're still on record because anybody watching this should know that there was a very critical time in this organization and you held us together. So I want to thank you for that. And I would like to, in the Zoom room publicly, just give you that round of applause, that kudos. And I know that you do it from the humbleness, but it has taken us to what we will become, and it created that glue that was really needed, and you just kept going. And so no words can put meaning to what that value has added to class, but I know in the years to come and in the future that we will look back and your name will continue to be that solid piece, that one of those pillars. So I do thank you for that, and I know others do in that same company. And I know I believe this is your last official as president, and I just want to name that. I didn't want you to get off this call without that
Yeah.
that send
Thank you.
It's
It
a
is much
send off.
appreciated.
Yes, it's a send off. You need to be signing off on some of these things, and we wanna invite you into that
Yeah,
space.
well, thank you. Well, none of this would be possible without these faces on this screen also. So everybody has played a tremendous
Of
part.
course.
Sure, I've been around, I've, continued to carry the title. That doesn't mean I've done
That's
a
right.
lot of some of this heavy work. If I've helped stay connected, I appreciate hearing that. But this team, there's a lot of you here that have done much work, much more than what I have done from a project standpoint. But we stay glued together, and I thank you all for that. So
There's your humbleness. Thank you.
happy holiday wishes to everybody. Do we have a motion to conclude this meeting?
So moved.
Seconded? All in favor?
Bye.
We will see you next time.
You.
Happy
Thanks.
holidays, everybody.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Happy
See you
holidays.
Thursday,
Thank
Scott.
you.